Hello everyone. So we've been pretty tied up lately, and it looks like the PS5 is getting a real workout. For all our friends who are big fans of Journey to the West, you're in for a treat. As I've been diving into the game, checking out the character designs, scenes, dialogues, and all of those awesome stick technique names, I've got to say, it just feels right. There's something really satisfying about it. And every time I finish an animation sequence, it just hits me right in the feels. So today I thought we could dive into the ending animation of Chapter 1, Fire Shines on Black Clouds, and see what cool stuff is packed in there. Sound good? Let's jump in. Alright, picture this. It's a quiet night in the mountains, and there's this young monk sneaking around with a bowl of fish, hoping to catch a golden toad. But as you'd guess, it doesn't go as planned. That slippery toad gets away, hopping off into the dark. Now our determined monk isn't giving up. He takes off through the trees and stumbles upon something big, a huge creature, more bear than anything else. But here's the twist. This bear-like king, not fierce at all. So the monk's holding his bowl, and the great king thinks he's asking for alms. The king pulls out a bag of money and offers it as a gift. The monk, though, terrified, drops to his knees, trembling, begging for mercy. Then something unexpected. Today, the king's not in the mood for harm. He's giving. The coins shine, lighting up the monk's face, and as he looks up in surprise, that same light reaches down to the Guanyin Zen temple below. All right, so let's break down what's really going on here, because this paragraph is packed with layers. First off, we've got this young monk carrying a burden. Now, at first glance, he doesn't quite look like a monk from the temple down the mountain. Instead, he seems more like a traveler on a journey, someone who's been on the road for a while. Then there's the question, why is a monk trying to catch a golden toad? Are we supposed to believe he's planning to kill it and eat it? That doesn't really fit with the image of a monk, right? But if we think about this in connection with Xiongge giving money and the brightly lit Zen temple below the mountain, a different picture starts to form. The young monk might have traveled from far away, and catching that toad could symbolize something deeper. Now, what's the deal with asking for money if you're planning to join the temple at the foot of the mountain? This actually ties into some historical context. You see, Journey to the West was published during the Jiajing period of the Ming Dynasty, and during this time there was an interesting policy that required anyone wanting to become a monk to pay a hefty sum to the state. The old system of crossing butterflies for monks was scrapped and replaced with the jade butterfly system. Essentially, it meant that if you wanted to become a monk, you had to pay up. By the 18th year of the Jiajing reign, there was a law called the Sengdao Jiao, which limited the number of monks allowed and required each monk to pay a sodium tax of 10 taels of silver. So in this context, the young monk could have been trying to gather money to join the temple, which might explain why he was on this journey in the first place. So here's where it all ties together. Back in the day, there were too many monks and not enough temples, which led to frequent famines. This made becoming a monk a pretty desirable gig, steady food, shelter, and an escape from the hardships of everyday life. But, of course, if everyone was running off to become a monk, who'd be left to pay taxes and grow food? The country needed money for relief funds and military expenses, so the government started to see monks as a source of revenue. That's when they got the idea to shear the sheep, so to speak, and make even those who became monks without permission cough up some cash. By the 37th year of the Jiajing reign, there was a new rule. Monks and Taoists over the age of 16 who became monks without official permission had to pay a tax of 6 taels of silver. Now this brings us back to the young monk. He might have already taken his vows, but without a jade butterfly, which was the official document allowing him to join a temple like Guanyin Zen temple, he still needed money. And where was he going to get it? This is where the golden toad comes in. The toad in folk culture often symbolized wealth, good fortune, and, interestingly enough, having many children. So in this story, the golden toad isn't just a random creature, it represents something much deeper. It's a symbol of wealth and the means for the young monk to secure his place in the temple. The act of catching the golden toad might be his way of gathering the necessary funds to pay his way into the monastic life. So, here's the thing about toads. They can lay up to 20,000 eggs at a time, which ties into this whole idea. When the legend of Liu Hai playing with the golden toad gained popularity, the meaning evolved. The toad wasn't just a symbol of fertility anymore. It became associated with wealth too, especially since the golden toad was believed to have the magical power to spit out coins. This transformation in symbolism reflects the simple hopes and dreams of ancient people, making the young monk's actions much clearer. The young monk, in his quest to obtain the certificate, or jade butterfly, believed in this legend. So he sneaked up the mountain in the dead of night, aiming to catch the golden toad. But then Xiongge, brother, showed up and flipped the situation on its head. Now, Xiongge wasn't just any bear. He was like, "Hey, that toad's my little bro. Don't mess with him. You need a license? I've got cash. How much do you need?" But wait, was Xiongge just a bank on legs? Of course not. If you zoom in and brighten the screen, the answer becomes pretty clear. Xiongge was probably a bandit in the past, robbing travelers, maybe selling roadside goods, even doing a bit of delivery on the side. But despite this, he didn't harm the young monk. Not because he suddenly turned over a new leaf, but because he had his own reasons. He wanted to get close to the Guanyin Zen temple, be near it, soak in its spiritual vibes, and maybe even find his own path to enlightenment. For Xiongge, eating people was a way of life, but becoming a Buddha, that was his job now. So he decided to stick around with those who were already on the monk path. But here's the kicker. The money he offered came from someone he likely killed. The bones of the money's original owner were probably lying around somewhere nearby. The young monk, gazing at the Zen temple, realized this was the first time he'd let greed get the better of him. For his own desires, he took something that wasn't his and ended up in league with a bear, with the golden toad as the catalyst. This whole scenario has that classic Journey to the West vibe, where nothing is as simple as it seems, and every action has a deeper meaning. In the next scene, titled, "I love the person who is destined to be with me," the young monk finally enters the Guanyin Zen temple, just as he had hoped. As he steps inside, his eyes are filled with a mixture of awe and timidity. He moves cautiously with a slightly bent posture, taking in the sight of this unfamiliar yet highly desirable world. The people around him seem similar to him in some ways, but there's also a stark difference. While he wears simple, plain clothes made from rough fabric, the others are draped in luxurious robes. Now let's take a moment to talk about the kasaya, which plays a significant role in this chapter. The word kasaya is a transliteration from ancient Indian language, referring to the traditional robes worn by monks. According to Buddhist records from the Tang Dynasty, monks were not allowed to wear robes in pure colors like green, yellow, red, white, or black. Instead, they wore garments in muted tones like bronze, earth, gray, and blue. These simple colors served a dual purpose. First, they represented a rejection of worldly greed and attachment. The idea was to wear garments made from discarded, tattered fabrics, symbolizing the monk's humble lifestyle. The robes were typically pieced together from various scraps of cloth, a reminder that everything they had, clothing, food, was obtained through begging and then carefully sewn together. However, during the Tang Dynasty, this tradition began to change. For high-ranking monks, the royal family would occasionally reward them with more luxurious robes in colors like purple and crimson. This marked a significant departure from the earlier, more austere practices, reflecting the close ties between the Buddhist clergy and the royal court during this period. So, our little monk has grown up, determined to study hard and elevate his spiritual practice like a true monk on the path to enlightenment. He's trying his best to control himself, to rid his heart of the three poisons: greed, anger, and ignorance. But no matter how much he tries to keep those desires in check, sometimes it's just too much. Remember that entrance fee from the Black Bear Spirit? It seems like that gift was the key to unlocking the door of greed within him. And once that door creaked open, it wasn't long before trouble started pouring in. The shadow of the bear, a symbol of his growing greed, started to linger over him, even as he rose through the ranks to become an abbot. The higher he climbed, the more frequently and clearly that shadow appeared behind him. Finally, one day, he couldn't hold it back anymore. In this pivotal moment, we see the abbot's eyes, bloodshot and wild, as if he's been possessed by the spirit of Xiong-ge. Faced with the monks who were eagerly offering their robes, he snaps, waving his tin cane, sending the robes flying through the air. He's fighting with all his might to suppress his greed, but it's a losing battle. Even the guardian King Kong, standing by, is left stunned by the intensity of the struggle. Now, let's dive into the deeper meaning behind the tin cane, which is much more than just a simple staff. In the world of Buddhism, the number of circular rings on a tin cane symbolizes the spiritual status and cultivation of its holder. For instance, Kshitigarbha Bodhisattva carries a staff with 6 rings, while both Kashyapa Buddha and Shakyamuni Buddha are depicted with staffs bearing 12 rings. One of the most renowned artifacts that bring this symbolism to life is the silver flower double-wheel 12-ring staff, unearthed in 1987 from Famen Temple in Shanxi Province, China. This staff, a national treasure, showcases how the number of rings signifies the level of spiritual attainment. For Elder Jinshi, possessing such a staff means he is nearing the ultimate goal, becoming a Buddha. However, the staff itself, with its rings, also represents restraint and self-control. In this reimagined version of the story, there's a deeper exploration of Elder Jinshi's character, adding layers of complexity to his journey. Here, we witness a transformation that goes beyond mere corruption. It's about the struggle to overcome one's darker impulses and return to the path of righteousness. Elder Jinshi, who has already achieved a significant status within the Buddhist hierarchy, yearns to ascend even further. He genuinely desires to rid himself of his deep-seated greed and strives for self-restraint. When Tang Sanzang arrives, accompanied by Sun Wukong, we see Elder Jinshi as a humble monk, clad in a plain robe, hands clasped together in a gesture of humility and devotion. However, the sight of Tang Sanzang's luxurious kasaya adorned with gold-threaded dragons and cranes completely shatters his resolve. This moment reveals a crucial truth. It wasn't that Elder Jinshi possessed extraordinary self-control, but rather that he had never faced a temptation powerful enough to truly test him. The progression from master to abbot, and finally to immortal, signifies Elder Jinshi's ambition. But in the face of absolute temptation, he becomes utterly consumed by his greed. The shadow of that first desire, symbolized by the bear, completely overtakes him, leading to his downfall. In the end, his unchecked greed manifests as a literal and figurative inferno, engulfing the Zen temple in flames. And there, sitting on a tree in the distance, is Sun Wukong, observing it all with a knowing expression. The question lingers, does a monkey like Wukong carry a staff to deal with such situations? Of course he does, and it seems Wukong is more than ready to step in, but perhaps only when the time is right. In this final scene, the story takes on an even deeper, more symbolic meaning. The wide-eyed Heavenly King's fire shield protects Tang Sanzang's quarters while the rest of the temple is engulfed in flames, a vivid representation of how unchecked desires can destroy everything in their path, even as some are shielded from the consequences. As the temple burns, the player is treated to a beautifully detailed mural, capturing the chaotic and tragic scene. The artwork is so intricately crafted that you can zoom in to hear the frantic conversations of the characters. The first time through, it might seem like just another dramatic cutscene, but when you realize what you've missed, it's too late to go back. You'd have to start the whole journey over again. In this mural, the chaos of that night is brought to life. The traveler fanning the flames, the monks, who had sinisterly planned to burn Tang Sanzang, now caught in the blaze themselves, scrambling to save their possessions. Amidst all this, Tang Sanzang sleeps peacefully, protected by the fire shield borrowed from Wukong, oblivious to the destruction around him. This scene underscores a powerful truth. While some bear the burden of protection and sacrifice, others, like the Black Bear Spirit, manage to slip through the cracks and find redemption. The Black Bear Spirit, who once succumbed to his desires, now serves as the chief of defense at Guanyin Bodhisattva's temple in Nanhai. He wears the same gold hoop as Wukong, but the meaning has changed. Where it once represented restraint for Wukong, it now signifies authority and responsibility for the Black Bear Spirit. In a poignant moment, the Black Bear Spirit asks the Bodhisattva a question that lingers in the air. Why couldn't Elder Jinshi, a monk who had supposedly shed all worldly attachments, let go of something as simple as a robe? The golden sea had dried up and the monk's dust had settled, so why was he still bound by desire? This question remains unanswered, a reminder that the journey to enlightenment is fraught with challenges, and even the most devout can struggle to free themselves from the chains of desire. The story leaves us to ponder the complexity of human nature and the delicate balance between spiritual growth and the temptations that lie along the way.
那这啥，我不要了，不要了！你们别杀